I drove 3 hours for Christmas dinner. My mom said, "Can you eat in the den? The table's full." I nodded. Ate alone. On my way out, I got a message from my aunt. Glad he knows his place. It wasn't meant for me. I got in the car, shut down the utility accounts I'd been covering, and texted the caterer to void the New Year's Eve deposit. By morning, 39 missed calls. One from the landlord. I drove 3 hours for Christmas dinner and ended up eating alone in the den, on a paper plate, while my family toasted champagne in the next room like I didn't exist. The invite came the week before. Well, not really an invite. More like a vague, "You're coming for Christmas, right?" In the middle of a call where my mom was mostly asking if I could cover the property tax again this year. I said sure. It was Christmas. You show up, you bite your tongue, you keep the peace. That's the rule when you're the one who left and made something of yourself, and they stayed behind and got comfortable with you funding it. The drive wasn't bad, but the moment I pulled into their driveway, something felt off. No one came out. The house was lit up like they were filming a Hallmark movie inside, and there were 6 cars parked on the lawn like someone threw a block party. But I walked in and nobody turned to greet me. I barely got one foot in the door before my mom waved from the kitchen. "Hey, can you eat in the den? The table's full." That was it. Not even a look up. Just that. I stood there for a second thinking she might be joking. I paid for the damn dining table they were using. But she didn't even pause the conversation she was having with Aunt Kim about shrimp cocktail. So I nodded, walked to the den, and sat down with my food. Turkey, mashed potatoes, soggy green beans. Not bad, not great. The dog sat next to me the whole time, watching with the kind of pity usually reserved for widows and kids who drop their lunch trays. I could hear them laughing and clinking glasses in the next room. Someone said something about how great it was to all be together this year. I was technically under the same roof, but apparently that didn't count. I didn't say goodbye. I rinsed my plate, left it in the sink, grabbed my coat, and walked out. In the car, I checked my phone. That's when I saw it. A text from Aunt Kim. Meant for someone else. Glad he knows his place. I just stared at it. Read it again. Something clicked. Not anger, not hurt. Just clarity. I'd been covering their bills for over 2 years, utilities, groceries, random repairs, because my dad's temporary layoff had turned into a full-time early retirement, and my mom had decided coupon clipping was a job title. They never asked nicely. They expected it. And I let them. I opened the utility apps. First electric, then gas, then water. All under my name. I hit cancel on each one. Final bills scheduled. Access cut off. Then I opened the caterer's site. My mom had begged me to put down the deposit for their New Year's Eve party. She was planning a Gatsby-themed nightmare for 40 people like she lived in Beverly Hills, not the second nicest house on a cul-de-sac in Jersey. I canceled the order. Refund processed. When I got home, I had 39 missed calls. All the usual suspects. One from their landlord. That one told me everything I needed to know. I woke up to my phone vibrating nonstop like it was having a seizure. 40+ missed calls, text bubbles stacking on top of each other like a slot machine that hit all lemons. I let it buzz until it stopped. I knew who it was. No one else calls that many times unless they're either on fire or want money. I scrolled through the messages. My mom's were first, all over the place. 1 minute it was, "Why are you doing this to us?" The next it was, "You're ruining Christmas." Then it escalated into threats, which was funny, because the woman couldn't log into a Gmail account without calling me. My dad jumped in with one-word texts like, "Unbelievable," and "selfish," all caps, like that made them more convincing. And then, Aunt Kim again. "You need help." I screenshotted that one and sent it to Marcus with no caption. He sent back the clown emoji. Around 9 a.m., I got the call I was waiting for. The landlord. "Hey Oliver, we've got a bit of an issue over here. Your parents haven't paid rent in a few months, and now the power's off. They told me to call you." I said, "Why would they do that?" "They said you handle everything, and that you'd clear this up. They assumed wrong." He went quiet for a second. I could hear a dog barking in the background. "So, they're gonna get an eviction notice if I don't get something by Monday." "Understood," I said. "Let me know if you need anything else." Click. 10 minutes later, my dad called again. I didn't answer. He called 4 more times, then left a voicemail that started calm and ended with him yelling something about disrespect and family, and how I had crossed the line. I listened to the whole thing while eating cereal. I hadn't even had my second cup of coffee yet when I saw the Facebook post. Aunt Kim again, this time with a picture of my parents huddled around the fireplace like they were on the Oregon Trail. Caption: Rough times show who your real family is. I took a screenshot. Then I reported the post for false information. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. That afternoon, I got a notification that someone had tried to reset my Netflix password. Then Hulu. Then Amazon. I laughed out loud. They were spiraling. So I leaned in. I logged into Amazon and changed the shipping address back to my apartment. Turns out they'd been ordering groceries, cleaning supplies, even decorations for that New Year's party they weren't having anymore. They tried to buy a champagne tower 2 days ago. Gone. Then I changed the Wi-Fi router password at their house. Still in my name. Still paying for the modem. It was just a little too quiet without it. By 3 p.m., I had a new text. From Trey, my cousin who once asked me if Idaho was that place with the pyramids. It said, "Bro, what did you do?" No context. Just that. Then, a surprise. A manila envelope slid through my apartment mailbox. Hand-delivered. No return address. Inside was a wedding invitation. From my cousin Jenna. I hadn't spoken to her in 6 months. I opened it. Not only was I invited last minute, but someone had scribbled on the RSVP card in red pen. No +1, seating is tight. The handwriting looked a lot like Aunt Kim's. I stood there for a minute, staring at it. Then I pulled out my phone and ordered a set of noise-canceling headphones and 3 vintage Hawaiian shirts. I booked a flight to Maui for that exact weekend. Non-refundable. First class. The next day, Marcus stopped by with pizza and an idea. He still had access to my uncle's business Amazon account, because they'd been too lazy to update the permissions. We loaded the cart with 50 gallons of glitter glue, 200 whoopee cushions, and a single 6-foot inflatable unicorn. Everything shipped directly to their office. By midnight, I had another call from the landlord. "Just a heads up," he said. "They're being evicted Monday morning. Don't know what you said, but yikes." I said nothing. Just smiled, leaned back, and played the voicemail from my dad one more time. Monday morning hit like a TV courtroom drama. The eviction was real. The landlord didn't bluff. My parents were officially out. I didn't hear it from them though. I found out through a group chat my mom forgot I was still in. My cousin Katie posted a picture of their stuff on the lawn with a single comment. "This is getting wild." No one said anything for a while after that. Total silence for 2 days. Not a single call, not a guilt text, not a prayer hands emoji from Aunt Kim. Then on Wednesday, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, it's Mom. New phone. We're at a hotel for now. Can we talk?" I didn't reply. I had just landed in Maui with Marcus. We checked into a beachside Airbnb with a hammock that made you forget other people existed. I threw my phone in a drawer and spent the afternoon on the beach drinking something neon out of a coconut. Later that night, I caved and checked my phone. There were now multiple texts, all from different relatives. One from Uncle Steve asking if I was seriously not coming to Jenna's wedding. And one from my dad, his first actual text instead of a voicemail full of huffing and threats. "You win. Call me." Still didn't respond. I was on vacation, not in a hostage negotiation. The next morning, Marcus and I were halfway through snorkeling with sea turtles when I got a notification. Aunt Kim had posted a long, heartfelt status on Facebook. It started with, "Sometimes family hurts you the most," and ended with, "But we forgive, because that's what love is." Comments were full of, "Stay strong," and "They'll come around." I hit the laughing reaction. Just that. When I got back to the mainland, I turned my phone on for real. There were 87 unread messages. Mostly from my parents. The last one was a selfie. Them, sitting in a rental car with packed suitcases, no caption. Just a desperate timestamp. They had nowhere to go. So they asked the question I'd been waiting for. In plain text from my mom. "Can we stay with you for a while?" That same afternoon, I drove to their hotel. I didn't say I would help, I just wanted to see their faces. They were sitting in the lobby like kids who got caught shoplifting, dressed in wrinkled clothes, Dad holding a fast food bag like it was a briefcase. My mom stood up first. "Oliver, we didn't realize." I cut her off. "Sit." They both did. I didn't yell. Didn't gloat. Just explained it plain. You don't get to treat people like garbage and still expect their money. You don't get to shove your son in the den on Christmas and then ask for rent help a week later. You burn the bridge and set up a picnic on the ashes. My dad opened his mouth. Closed it again. I kept going. You want a place to stay? Here are the rules. You don't comment on what I do, who I date, where I go. You don't ask for money. You don't host parties. You don't log into anything with my name on it. My mom asked if this was punishment. No, I said. This is boundaries. That night, I let them into my place. Gave them the guest room. Made sure the door locked from my side. The next morning, my mom made coffee and didn't say a word. My dad asked if he could turn on the TV. I said sure. They watched in silence for 2 hours. That evening, they both sat me down. My dad went first. We were selfish. We know that. My mom added. We talked, and we get it now. You're not our wallet. You never were. You were just the only one responsible enough to pick up the pieces. They said they'd been wrong. About everything. They asked for another chance? Not at money or a house. Just to fix it. For real this time. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just booked another trip to Hawaii. This time, I added 2 extra tickets. 3 weeks passed. They stayed quiet. They followed every rule. No weird comments, no passive-aggressive remarks, no new subscriptions mysteriously charged to my card. They cooked, cleaned, even started asking before using my Keurig. Honestly, it was a little creepy. One night, I came home late and found them watching a documentary about jellyfish. Jellyfish. Not a single Real Housewives rerun in sight. That's when I realized they weren't faking it. Not completely, at least. Something had shifted. Still, I didn't trust it. Not yet. So I set a test. I told them I was thinking about taking another trip, maybe to Miami this time, and I wouldn't be around for a few days. I left them with basic instructions: don't touch my mail, don't use the laundry before 6 p.m., my building gets weird about water pressure, and definitely don't invite anyone over. Then I actually went to Miami. But I didn't tell them. I stayed in a cheap hotel 5 blocks from my apartment, and checked the building camera feeds remotely. Marcus helped me monitor everything. We kept a spreadsheet. The results? Boring. Painfully boring. They didn't do a thing wrong. By the 3rd day, Marcus said, they're like zoo animals that learned if they scream, they don't get fed. On day 4, I called them from the hotel. Hey. Quick question. If I offered to help you get a new place, with conditions, would you take it? There was a long pause on the line. Define conditions, my dad said. You listen. You respect. You don't take advantage. I'll help get you settled. Not rich. Just stable. My mom said she needed time to think. My dad didn't. We'll do whatever you say. That Saturday, we toured apartments. Nothing fancy. A clean 2-bedroom, basic appliances, walking distance to a grocery store. They liked it. I could tell. Even if they pretended to nitpick the water pressure. They signed the lease a week later. In their names. With their signatures. I just covered the first 3 months and paid for furniture that didn't look like it came from a 1998 garage sale. The next surprise came 2 weeks after they moved in. A check. Not from them, let's not get crazy. It was from Jenna. My cousin. For $1,200. A note was attached. I didn't know they were using your money. I thought they had a retirement plan. Marcus nearly dropped his beer when he saw it. Is this an apology check? It was. And it wasn't the last. In the weeks that followed, more messages came in. Apologies. Quiet ones. Private ones. Aunt Kim sent me a 6-paragraph email explaining how she didn't realize what was going on, how family drama blurred things, how she was learning to see things differently. I didn't respond. But I kept the email. Then the biggest one came. My mom called me and said, your dad and I want to talk. I braced for something manipulative. Maybe a guilt trip. Instead, she said, we were wrong about Hawaii. I stayed quiet. You went with friends, not with us. You chose them. Because you knew we wouldn't make it relaxing. We weren't family then. Not really. Then my dad said something I never expected. We're trying to earn it now. When my dad said they were trying to earn it, I didn't react. Not right away. I let the silence sit. It felt earned. We met a few days later at a quiet diner just off the highway, one of those places that hasn't updated the wallpaper since 1973 and somehow still smells like burnt toast even before you order. No drama. No setups. They were already seated when I walked in, side by side, like co-defendants. They didn't start with excuses. That was the first surprise. My mom had a piece of paper folded in quarters. She slid it across the table. It's not a speech. It's a list. I didn't pick it up. She started reading anyway. Christmas dinner. The den. Not inviting you to Jenna's wedding. Taking your graduation money for the AC. Signing up for credit cards in your name. I held up a hand. Wait. What? They looked at each other. My dad cleared his throat. It was one card. A few years ago. We thought we could pay it off before you noticed. I had noticed. At the time, I just didn't say anything because I assumed it was fraud. Turns out I was half right. I leaned back and said nothing. Let them keep going. They listed everything. Every petty slight, every entitled request, every quiet betrayal. They didn't cry. They didn't ask for sympathy. They didn't even apologize, at least not in the traditional way. It was more like a confession. Like they'd finally realized just how far off the rails things had gone. Then came the real question. Do you think there's a way back from this? My dad asked. Not to how things were. Just something better? I didn't answer right away. I stirred my coffee like it had something profound to say. I think, I said, if you're asking that honestly, it means you already started. We sat there in the booth for over 2 hours. Talked about boundaries. What they meant. What they weren't. I told them I didn't want to be their bank. I didn't want to be their fixer. I just wanted to be their son, when they were ready to treat me like one. They nodded. No promises. Just acknowledgement. That night, I got a message from Aunt Kim. It just said, I heard. I didn't ask how. I didn't care. The next few days were weird. Quiet. But something had shifted. Then came New Year's Eve. They texted. Just us. Takeout. No pressure. Come if you want. I stared at the message for a while. Half of me expected it to be a trap. But the other half didn't. So around 8 p.m. I showed up. They'd ordered from my favorite Thai place. Pad CEW, no broccoli. The coffee table was cleared. No candles, no playlist, no streamers. Just food and 2 cans of ginger ale already sweating from condensation. We ate. Watched a rerun of some cooking show. Barely talked. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. At 11:57 p.m., my dad stood up, walked to the kitchen, and came back with 3 plastic champagne flutes filled with sparkling cider. He handed me one. To starting over. I raised mine. With limits. He grinned. Deal. Midnight came. We watched the fireworks on a borrowed laptop streaming a grainy feed from Times Square. My mom put a blanket over all of us like she used to when I was a kid falling asleep on the couch. She didn't say anything until the fireworks were done. We know we messed up, Oliver. But we finally understand what we were doing. And why you had to walk away. You weren't punishing us. You were teaching us. That night, I didn't stay over. But I left knowing I probably could have. The next morning, I emailed my accountant. Subject line, restart. Message. Resume payments on the parents' accounts. But cap it. Basic utilities, rent, and food. No extras. Let's see how it goes. That evening, I got a Venmo notification. From my mom. $10. Caption. For your coffee. You've earned it. 3 months passed. Quietly. Which, in our family, was a small miracle. My parents settled into their new apartment. Nothing flashy, just a 2-bedroom with a decent view of a parking lot and a washer-dryer combo that shook the whole place like it was trying to launch into orbit. But they liked it. More importantly, they took care of it. My dad even figured out how to pay bills online without calling me every time he forgot his password. I kept my distance but stayed available. They didn't abuse it. Once a week we had dinner, usually something simple at their place. One time I brought dessert and my mom nearly cried over a box of grocery store cupcakes. Said it reminded her of when I used to bake as a kid. I let her have the moment. It was one of the few times she didn't try to turn nostalgia into a guilt trip. Then in April, something unexpected happened. They invited me to a therapy session. Not for them. For all of us. I didn't agree right away. Took a few days. But curiosity won. I showed up to this beige-walled office with plastic chairs and a bowl of peppermints no one had touched since the Bush administration. The therapist, a middle-aged woman named Karen who looked like she only owned cardigans, opened with a simple question. "What brought you all here?" My dad said. "Because we almost lost our son." My mom added. "And we thought money was love." And I said, "Because they finally stopped expecting me to fix things they broke." It was awkward. Messy. But honest. And somehow, that made it work. We did 3 sessions. Not a lifetime's worth of healing, but enough to get the message across. Enough to show me they were really doing the work. By summer, they'd picked up part-time jobs. My dad at a hardware store, my mom doing books at a florist shop. They didn't need to work, not with what I was covering, but they said they wanted to feel useful again. I let them. And then came August. I invited them to Hawaii. Same Airbnb. Same beach. This time, no Marcus. Just the 3 of us. They were hesitant. Thought it was a trap. I told them it wasn't. That this wasn't about a reward or punishment. It was just a trip. A clean page. When we got there, we didn't talk about the past. We didn't rehash the den or the shutdown or the wedding invite or the glitter glue. We swam. We ate. We laughed at a drunk tourist trying to order nachos in Hawaiian. One night, sitting on the porch watching the waves, my mom turned to me. "You could have cut us off forever. Most people would have." I didn't respond. She continued. "But you didn't. And I still don't fully know why." I looked out at the water. "Because I still believe people can learn. And because you finally stopped expecting me to do everything without asking how much it cost me." They didn't reply. But for once, they didn't need to. We went home the next day. They returned to their apartment. I returned to mine. No drama. Just life. Normal. Functional. A few weeks later, my dad sent me a text. "Just fixed the sink myself. Didn't call you." And for the first time in a long time, I laughed and meant it. Sometimes revenge looks like cut power and cancelled deposits. And sometimes it looks like this. A reset. Not perfect. But better. Finally better.